Anyone that knows me know I am a huge horror movie fan.
Mhm.
Do you have like a top three um movie genre? Like mine would be horror, sci-fi, and action. Is there one or two particular genres that you're more
Yeah, I'd say right
inspired?
now it's still science fiction's probably at the top of my list. And then within that, um, monster movies that have a sci-fi connection, things that deal with a level of the unknown that's either on a cosmic scale, maybe involving aliens or something interdimensional,
Hmm.
or um, things that delve into the unknowns around biology. So I think around the 90s, they started there were a lot of monster movies that involved genetic engineering and mutations and things kind of going awry that way, or some alien DNA, splicing with a human, and then suddenly, you're allowing this new species to run. And that's something I like about, science fiction or science fiction horror is that it will tap into whatever the current anxieties are in society around
Any
technology or
any
culture.
any movie titles that you
Oh,
have?
okay. Well, it was just what I was thinking about. So that was Species was one. There's a lot of H.R. Giger influence on design in that film. But in recent times, so I think it was recently you had asked about wait, what am I watching in terms of movies? There was a series called Scavenger's Reign. This is an animated series. I think I saw it on Max.
I think I saw the first episode of that. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
So that I think that series encapsulates a lot of what I like in sci-fi. Having enough wonder and mystery and not explaining everything, just how they figure out how to manipulate these organisms to create. I mean, it's just really, really visually fascinating. I enjoy the Star Trek Voyager, not Voyager, Discovery, that series.
Oh,
Just
nice.
weird stuff. Like, yeah, there's this kind of interdimensional fungal network that yeah, it's just and just a gorgeous, gorgeous series.
Have you had a chance to watch The Last of Us?
The Last of Us, yes, I enjoyed it. So the post-apocalyptic stuff, I just like watching them figure things out, the characters. So maybe that's why I think I've seen all the Walking Dead stuff except for the one with the kids. Yeah, I can easily just still binge The Walking Dead because
Yeah, I do
that's
that almost weekly, so I'm not ashamed to
okay.
say I still watch it all the time. I'm
Yeah.
watching Daryl Dixon right now, so.
Okay. And it's the relationships in that series that I think draw me in. I'm
And
enjoying the Penguin. The
oh,
Penguin is
nice. It's a little
and
slow. I like
yeah,
the dark moodiness, but I like it, but it's a little slow.
I do actually. It takes me a while to get through an episode. Yeah, I turn it off and I come back to
Okay,
it.
I don't feel bad now.
Yeah. Yeah.
How,
So I had one more in my Adventure Time. That
oh,
series,
okay.
animated series, I'm like, I think season 7 of it. It's just weird and funny and cute. It doesn't feel as deep as it was when I first saw it years ago, but I'm really drawn into again, the relationships between those characters,
Okay, nice.
designing that
I'll have to
world.
check. I keep hearing about it. I'll have to check it out. I'm not that big into sci-fi animation type shows. Like Scavenger Reign just took me by surprise of just how dynamic it was with the
Mhm.
storytelling.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I normally wouldn't. But also, I just sort of stumbled across a TV show that just has one season. I just finished season one
Mhm.
on what is it? I think Peacock. If you subscribe to Peacock.
No, no.
Oh
What
my
was the show?
God. It's called Teacup, and
Teacup.
yeah, it's very much, it seems it might be aliens, but it has a biological element to it, and I'm not quite sure what's going on yet. They don't fully explain it in the first 8 episodes, but it has a lot of cool practical um special effects too.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited about it. I hope season two is good. But if you get a chance to stream Teacup, I would definitely recommend it because it took me by surprise. Like,
I'll throw one more out there really quickly. There's The Wandering Earth on audiobook. So this is a
okay.
translation of it's a Chinese author. So, I think it's a series of novels. There's a film series as well, but listening to the audiobooks during my morning walks when I was living down in Burbank was just really it's amazing. So it's a future where the sun is dying, and so everyone gets together and starts building. Everyone in the world gets together to build these mountain-sized engines that are fueled
Oh,
by rock. So they have enough fuel to get them to leave the solar system for a new star.
wow.
And so it just kind of goes through the generations of lives with these characters in that story. So I got through maybe about 60% of it. It's
Wow.
it's long, very long. So good read or good audiobook.
I started watching Silo on Apple TV. I didn't finish it, but Silo kind
Mhm.
of has an interesting premise where the world outside is no longer livable. I didn't get too deep into it, but Silo is actually pretty good.
Okay.
Okay, so my next question is the question I ask everyone that I interview is pretty silly, but like,
Uh-huh.
so what is your top food cuisines, either food or food cuisines that you
Oh yeah,
like?
yeah. I'd say Korean.
Oh, nice.
Um, I think it's because I it's nutritious.
Okay.
There's always a good balance of meat, veggie, um, yeah, proteins and starches. The flavors, I think the variety of flavors and textures is fantastic. The fact that it's meant to be shared, kind of family style, I think that's good. I'm kind of a loner, so I it's good to like kind of experience a meal that's meant to be shared. After that, I've experienced, I guess you'd say it's Russian cuisine. There's a lot of fishes and beets and sour cream and just
So
these
you're a
really,
savory food person, man. You like,
yeah.
oh wow, because I like savory, salty, bitter foods too. That's
Hmm.
interesting because it's rare to find someone who is into like fermented cabbages and
Hmm.
vinegars
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's totally my style too. That's so funny. I like
yeah.
a lot like oh my God, kimchi or
Hmm.
um gosh, even just like the what is the radishes and is it
Hmm.
bibimbap is what they call it? Like the
Bibimbap. Hmm.
yeah, I like all that kind of stuff. Russian food I have not explored, but I do like a lot of Polish and German food because they have a lot of sauerkraut and
It might be
fermented
similar. Yeah.
vegetables. Yeah, for sure. Well, that's really, really cool. Huh, we're gonna have to go get some Korean food one day because I like Korean fried chicken for sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I know some
That
places.
that's
Yeah.
some good fried chicken and the like garlicky chili
Yeah.
paste.
Hmm.
What is it called? Gochujang. I like gochujang.
Hmm. Hmm.
Awesomes. And then the next one, what's your favorite ice cream? Are you a strawberry, vanilla, or chocolate person?
Um, well, it depends on the brand because
Or are you old school black where you like butter pecan?
I didn't get a taste for that until I think that was my dad liked rum raisin. I don't know why. He always liked rum raisin, which I never liked. Why would you put raisins in your ice cream? I like a lot of different flavors. So there was this Lucerne Safeway brand. Um, I think it was like an apple pie or something. They would put these big crunchy chunks of crust in them.
Wow.
And it was kind of seasonal. I'm getting off topic. So there's a chocolate from Tara's Organic Ice Cream that they're made of. I think they're based in Berkeley. That particular chocolate is really, really good. Now, if it's a vanilla, it has to have the vanilla bean little granules in there. Um, I first got a taste of what I think was really good vanilla was the Breyers. That was a store-bought brand. And there are a few others out there, but I'm still more chocolate, but it has to be just nothing else in it, just pure
Right.
chocolate. And I'll
Yeah,
add,
because I'm kind of with you on Rocky Road. Like, why would you put marshmallows in ice cream? Ew.
Yeah, actually, Rocky Road was a favorite. That was a personal favorite. I
Are
didn't mind the,
you kidding?
just
Oh no.
raisins. I don't put raisins in ice cream. Raisins,
I just can't.
maybe, yeah,
Well, I'm not a big chocolate person, so
yeah,
that's problematic in and of itself. Well, I'm big on vanilla, especially the home churned vanilla. Like you have those
yeah,
chunks of the salt rock ice
yeah. I remember
and
that.
oh
Yeah,
my god,
we used to
that
do
is
that
like
on 4th of July. Um,
heaven. Oh my
yeah.
god, that salty little pieces of salt,
Mhm.
rock salt in your vanilla ice cream is just oh, that's the best. Especially like you said on a hot summer day. Oh my gosh. Well,
Mm.
chocolate, yeah, that's I don't know, man. I'm skeptical of you now.
There's also a I guess it's a Mexican style chocolate where they'll add like a cayenne pepper. It's like a
Okay.
spicy chocolate.
I know what
And
you're talking about. Yeah,
having
very
that in
much.
ice cream form, I enjoy that as
That
well.
actually sounds amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I like chocolate if I have severe PMS. I tell people all the time, if you see me eating chocolate, run.
Uh,
Because I
but now,
don't like chocolate.
if you want some really interesting flavors, again, Tara's has cardamom, um, um, bay laurel. You know, if you like that kind of spicy, the bay leaf
Okay.
flavor. There are a few others, that you can get. So I go to Kaleidoscope Coffee over in, I might give them a little plug, over in Point Richmond.
Nice.
And I get to try those different flavors there. And again, and the other thing about the ice cream, the better ice creams, you don't need more than a scoop to really enjoy them.
Right.
Like ice cream over on Solano, they have a lavender and a blueberry, especially the blueberry is really good. And it's this where it's so flavorful that, and I guess maybe it's something how he mixes something like how gelato works. You don't need like a big bowl, like a big soup.
Right.
Like I grew up eating ice cream. It's like you get a
We all
big,
did.
you know, that's all you that one ice cream bowl and you just fill it. I think if it's a good ice cream, it'll be satisfying after just one
So,
scoop.
what's the place on Solano? Let's give them a big plug.
Ice cream.
Okay.
It's a I scream, like ice cream for ice cream.
Nice.
ISCREAM. Yeah, they're right up there on Calusa, right across.
Okay.
Yeah, that spot's always busy. Yeah.
Cool. And I want to talk a little bit about your art. I'm gonna
Mhm.
share my screen again and talk just a little bit about let's see if I can find this. Bear with me. Okay. We've gone through the interview questions. So yeah, so Blamazons, talk a little bit more about this the new book.
Yeah, so it's a pinup collection. When I say pinup, I just mean like a one-shot character, maybe some props, maybe a little bit of an environment, maybe not. These are all done in line art. So when I do a series like that, I usually have a theme in mind or some kind of a goal. So it might be partly an exercise in getting better with a particular medium. So in this case, actually several of my sketchbooks over the past couple of years have been focused on getting better with the micron pens. So I've been doing that quite a bit. So, but these, again, it was just work in the sketchbook and say, okay, I'm gonna do a character. It was gonna be a female character holding some kind of technology or armor. No story necessarily in mind. It's just the goal was to
Okay.
follow through and to kind of have them look like just regular everyday people. I really, I mean, I enjoy art where the character is no male or female, that whether idealize the superhero genre and all that, but I also like seeing. I think that's probably why I enjoyed Scavenger's Reign so much. When the characters remind me of people maybe I would see on just walking about downtown
Okay.
Berkeley.
Are these all black and white drawings?
Yes, they're all black and white. I did start coloring them, so there is a possibility maybe it might be about a year from now, having a full
Okay.
color version with backstory. So I did actually start writing some stories, and it kind of drifted into this sort of weird po post-apocalyptic I don't know, ecological collapse with giant mutant crabs
Oh
and
wow.
weird stuff like that. So, and high technology. And it's so that's again, it's just how I work. You know, I'll do the visuals, and the visuals would possibly inspire some kind of a story. I don't know if that's the best way to work, but and
Right.
it's just that's how I like to do things. Yeah.
In the watercolor also, the I
Mhm.
know that you do a lot of plein air drawing and botanical gardens type
Yes.
of drawing. Can you talk a little bit more about the watercolor practice? Because
Yeah.
colors are so vibrant and the paintings and drawings are so highly rendered.
Yeah.
I really enjoy seeing those. Can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit more about those?
Yeah, thank you. I say it might have been around 2016 or 2017. I started a routine where I go on my morning walk. There's a park over here in Richmond, Mira Vista Park. It's by a creek. It's probably running around this time of year. So that was a place where I would go, just do some calisthenics outside, and I got into the habit of bringing my watercolor kit with me and a small 4x6 pad of watercolor paper. And I would spend, after my exercise routine, I'd spend about 30 to 45 minutes concentrating on drawing and painting a leaf in watercolor. And I kept that up, weeks would go by, and eventually I had a pretty large collection. I got to exhibit the work at a couple places, one in San Francisco and also here in Richmond, and also in Albany. It has some stuff in Albany. So with that routine came this new kind of, I've always loved um, the work of Brian Froud, who did the design work for the Dark Crystal.
Okay.
And I started seeing the connections between the pigments in the paint and the pigments that I could see in the leaves as they decayed. So whether it was a freshly fallen leaf that maybe still had some greens and reds in it, or if it was a leaf that was, very dry and, light brown or, rotting, I could see those colors in my palette, and that helped me to, and there are layers there. When you look at organic material, there
Right.
are these layers there that you can then sort of pick up on it and apply to the painting itself. Watercolor, my process involves a lot of layering. And so that it's just led to a lot of learning. And with that came just the ability to kind of go into one of my other genres that I enjoy, which is fantasy drawing and painting. So the worlds of, fairies and elves, the wee folk, stuff that, you kind of right out of the corner of your eye, you see something moving, this
Hmm.
that sort of thing. Yeah.
And also, I realized you
Oh
were
yeah.
you presented a lexicon this year. Can you
Yeah.
talk? I fascinated. I'm so fascinated by the water soluble graphite.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that presentation
Yeah,
and sort
sure.
of how the process even works?
hmm
Oh,
Yeah, so Illuxicon
stop sharing.
attracts yeah, sure. Kind of the best, I would say, the best science fiction and fantasy illustrators, at least in the US. So if you know names like Boris Vallejo, Julie Bell, Donato Giancola, a lot of the artists who do work for Magic, The Gathering, which is a huge, huge, huge collectible card game. And then others, so there's a main show that is juried, and then there's an evening showcase that I've been able to do 3 years in a row.
Hmm,
This year, I pitched a water-soluble graphite presentation and demo, and they were okay with it. So, water-soluble graphite comes in different forms. It's just essentially a pencil. It behaves just like any other pencil,
okay.
graphite pencil. And then when you add water, you're able to turn your drawing into um, something that looks a lot like an ink wash. I got into it originally. So I think around the time I might have first seen, you remember Kroger Hall? We go to Kroger Hall for
Right.
Lifetime. So around that
Right.
time, I just had this interest in having a way of painting with graphite. I wanted graphite qualities without the labor of rendering. I want to be able to do that with brushstrokes. So I tried to invent my own concoction of like gum arabic and graphite powder. Didn't work. Then I discovered, yeah, there is actually something called liquid pencil that's sold in jars. And then I don't remember how I came across the pencils. I do not know, my sister did give me a really cool set from Derwent, and it
Okay.
had about six of those pencils, different kinds. So it just became a medium that I really enjoyed working with. And then had so the image you just shared, uh, that's an example of a piece from a series of about, I think it's up to 70. I keep
Hmm.
finding them in different sketchbooks, and
Wow.
they're just these surrealist imaginings of landscapes that are intersecting with humanoid forms or these, rock or flora, fauna. And
I'd
it's
be
just,
interested. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I'd be interested in seeing more of those actually. If you
Yeah,
have a few of those images, you could email me. I could include that
absolutely. Yeah.
into
Yeah.
this interview so folks could kind of take a look and see what you're
Mhm.
talking about. That would
Yeah.
be all, maybe four or five of them so that people can get an idea of what you're talking about. Because it's
Yeah.
really beautiful, and I'm just wondering in practice or technique wise.
Mhm.
So are you rendering fully out the drawing and then
Mhm.
adding water, or are you adding water as you go?
I'd say it's a little bit of both, but the rendering, the drawing part it's almost like all you really need is the drawing to work as a placeholder for what's going to become your brush strokes.
Okay.
So as you get more experience, more familiar with, what is this medium mark going to look like when I apply a little water versus a lot of water, then
Right.
you can anticipate how much you need to lay down in your initial sketch. So it is essentially sketching. I don't do a lot of heavy rendering because I know that the refinement is going to happen through the brush strokes with the wet
Okay.
brush. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so in the talk, I shared like their techniques. So one is where it's pulling the pigments into a wet area, kind of letting it spread and bleed into it. And then there's the opposite of that. And then you can work on top of it and add layers. And the medium the support or the paper you work on can also change. It can be
Right.
textured watercolor paper. It can be smooth Bristol. Um, and so there's lots of ways of working with it.
That was going to be my next question too, in terms of, how we sort of say glazing when you're using
Mhm.
watercolor.
Yeah.
Is that are you given an opportunity to add layers as it dries, or is it something that you can add another medium on top of if you wanted to add watercolor? Could you, or
That's
would
a really
that
good
just?
question. Yeah, so you can add more layers of the same medium, the wall soluble graphite. And it comes different colors too.
Hmm.
That's something I haven't really explored too much. But when you talk about combining it with other mediums, I also demonstrate or shared examples of how you can use it for an underpainting and then layer glazes of, I use acrylic, so layer glazes of acrylic on top.
Wow.
Then you can, that way, the values you establish with the washes will support the color that you apply with your glazing. I imagine it would work the same way with oil paint.
Right. Okay. That, yeah, because I was wondering if it dries water fast then.
Yes, yeah, yes, definitely. Yes, it's waterproof. Um, that assumes that you've activated it and treated it completely. Now, if you don't do it completely, then some of it might lift and kind of get into whatever medium you're adding on top.
That is so
Again, that was
cool.
my other reason for trying to get, better with it because I don't like using spray fixative. I love rendering in graphite. I love the
Mhm.
control that it gives you. But if you want to glaze on top of it, you have to seal it somehow.
Right.
So sealing it, I've experimented with sealing with a layer of acrylic medium, transparent acrylic medium that works well, but it will typically, if you have a lot of heavy rendering, it's going to lift and cause things to smear. So that's another nice thing about the washable graphite. You kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the full range of values and get very, very dark, inky blacks, or you can get very, very
Nice.
subtle lights, and it stays put when you add a layer on top.
So
And
the
yeah.
so I'm sorry, the gel medium, the acrylic gel medium, does
Mhm.
that then also give you the problem of making it resistant to further water soluble mediums?
If I apply a layer, so I use two ones. It'll either be the matte medium, but more often than not, it's going to be clear acrylic gesso
Oh,
if I
okay,
plan
okay.
on, and I only do that if I plan on layering on top with acrylics.
Right.
If I want to continue layering with the water-soluble graphite, I won't seal it. Maybe until I'm absolutely done with it, then I might seal it with a varnish, like an acrylic varnish, or
Okay.
maybe like a high-end spray varnish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my concern that if you add a medium like that, then anything you put would just beat up and not not adhere to the
I
surface.
think, yeah, so I'm starting to, so I've been experimenting with this material. It's a polypropylene paper. It's like a plastic paper, UPO.
Hmm.
That's the brand, and I've been painting on it in life drawing. So my next experiment will involve, because there's another artist, Donato Giancola. If you look at he's a sci-fi fantasy artist. He's done like hundreds and hundreds of drawings, like a lot of like fantasy, yeah, like Lord of the Rings type stuff.
Hmm.
So in his on his website, I just learned that he actually had some at Illuxicon. I didn't get to look at them, but he was working on a material called Duralar and experimenting with rendering with graphite and water soluble graphite and graphite powder, I think.
Wow.
So it's there are a lot of possibilities there. And it just kind of depends on what look do you want to achieve with it.
Nice. So let's jump into some of the work you did for Oakland Creates because I've
Oh,
shown a
goody.
couple
Yeah.
people and they are so impressed and they I work with a printer
Mhm.
uh, and so she'll be screen printing the design onto some t-shirts and
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
she has the black and white version of this
uh-huh.
image, and she was so excited to be printing it.
Yeah.
And so talk me through a little bit of your process. Now, I know I threw out a few prompts for you.
Yeah.
Like I wanted it to include downtown Oakland, so you knew there were landmarks and you knew specific location of where the action was taking place. And I talked to a lot of my followers on YouTube and Instagram about wanting to have a theme every year. So this year was classic horror and classic monsters. And
Hmm.
so some variation of, Radon or King Kong or just even the
Hmm.
classic, Japanese
Hmm.
titans. And
Yeah.
so talk a little bit about your process and ideation of how you put this together because I also agree that this is so awesome. It's super cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I picked kind of a variation on you said it, Rodan
Hmm.
and Godzilla. Well, starting with the building itself. So I parked downtown. Wouldn't have to do that. Just walked around, tried to find just the right angle for the Tribune building, which I think is probably, in terms of architecture, one of the more iconic buildings in downtown Oakland.
Right.
More memorable. I mean, the Tribune I mean, we used to get the Oakland Tribune. That was one of our main newspapers when I was growing up. Um, and so I had also looked at Lake Merritt. So the idea of monsters coming out of Lake Merritt. In fact, there's a novel. I got a copy from Cape and Cow years ago. I haven't finished it. It's called Lake Miskatonic, I think. So it's this sort of Lovecraftian Cthulhu type stuff going on, but around Lake Merritt. It's a really good novel. Um, but anyway, so I'd also looked at Lake Merritt and taken pictures there, but I just didn't. There's something about the scale of the lake and versus the architecture where you couldn't really get that whole kind of what I think is iconic with monsters, giant
Right.
monsters,
Right.
kaiju movies.
I'm gonna
So
I'm gonna stop sharing and I'll throw a slide in here
yeah, yeah.
as I edit so people can see the artwork.
Okay. So my process was to just practice drawing, familiarize myself with the anatomy of the two characters. Like I seen these monsters since childhood, but like what do they really look like? How
Mm.
could I put my own spin on them? I decided to push Godzilla a little bit more towards sort of like I don't know, like a Quetzalcoatl inspired design. He's got the bigote, he's got the big, mustache. And so that was this kind of a theme that kind of like reflecting, the people in Oakland. Um, and some of the tensions, which I think I'm still kind of an editorial cartoonist at heart, and so I like to kind of poke fun at things that are like really serious topics. So I'm just kind of depicting, some of the tension in Oakland, around, race and territory and, who has what. That's always been there. And to again visualize that as just in the form of like these two really powerful forces going head to head, that's yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning toward. And just to have fun with the designs. And then my other thing is like I'm not a fan art person. I can't
Yeah.
so
Well, you
to
you captured that iconic panic in the street, which I
yeah.
really, really love. The bottom portion where there are
Mm,
people just, running in all different directions, even somebody on a bicycle. I just
mm,
thought that was so genius. And
mm,
just the detail, the level of details with the scales and the
mm,
claws on the feet. I just thought, and then I guess you would call it, and I hate to use this word, it's so pretentious, the
mm.
atmospheric perspective of how you can kind
Yeah.
of have the lower part of the body coming out, right? In a sort of
Hmm.
perspective, foreshortened
Yeah.
perspective. I
Yeah.
thought that was so
Yeah.
dynamic and cool. And I just want to put it on everything. Mugs, lunchboxes, mouse pads. Like I
That'll be
thought it
fun.
was so fun. I thought it was really excellent.
Yeah, I hope
And
it works well in the t-shirt. I mean, it's a very vertical proportion. So yeah, you guys will figure it out. You have all the files. So
yeah, I think it'll
have
look
fun with it.
amazing. Yeah, and I think maybe even tote bags too, because
Mhm.
who doesn't need another tote bag? Yeah, and then some of the artwork that we talked about, and I'll try to edit that into this video.
Okay.
You want to shout out your social media? Are you on Instagram, Facebook, your website? Give us all of that good stuff.
Okay, good. Yeah, my website is eugenerandolphyoung.com. That has my recent work. There's a blog and shop.
Nice.
And social media, it is Eugenery at Eugenery on Instagram. So it's Eugenery. It's for Randolph Young. That's on Instagram. I don't do X/Twitter anymore. I just don't understand it. They don't have
You're
to say.
not missing anything.
That should do it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
X is not what it used to. It's just not worth being